Okay, let's dive into a real head scratcher when it comes to technology. We always assume that the best, most advanced tech is going to win out, right? But reality, well, it tells a way different story. I mean, look at the feature phone. It evolved into this perfect little device, and then poof, it was gone. But the fax machine, that clunky, loud, inconvenient thing, yeah, it's somehow still kicking.
So why? What's the deal? It really makes you wonder what actually decides if a piece of tech sticks around or just fades away.
And the answer, believe it or not, has almost nothing to do with how technically superior something is. Nope. It's all about how deeply it gets tangled up in the way we live and work, the very fabric of society. See, to really get the fax machine, you have to stop thinking of it as just a way to send documents. Its true purpose was, well, a lot more subtle than that. It was actually a social device, a tool for keeping things just the way they were in the office. It helped keep the boundaries of work, contracts, and even who was responsible for what nice and blurry. I mean, just think about it. The fax machine fit into the old analog office like a glove. You needed to send something with a real signature or an official stamp? No problem. You needed a physical paper trail right then and there? Done. And it gave you that perfect level of vague responsibility. Hey, I sent it. Without all the pesky digital tracking. And the best part? It just plugged into a phone line. You didn't need an entire IT department to run it. And that's the crucial point right there. The fax machine was the absolute path of least resistance. It was this shiny new piece of tech that let businesses feel modern without having to change their behavior one single bit. It was a perfect match for a world that still ran on paper. Okay, so now let's flip the script and look at a technology that did the exact opposite. Let's talk about the downfall of the perfectionist, the feature phone. So the feature phone basically perfected itself into a dead end. It became the absolute best little terminal for calls and basic email. But that was the trap. It was too good at its one job to ever become something new. The smartphone, though, it wasn't just a phone. It became this flexible, open operating system for life that could do, well, anything. And this really gets to the heart of the whole paradox. It's like this quote says, the feature phone was just too complete, too perfect in its role to ever change. But the fax machine, it survived precisely because it stopped evolving. Isn't that wild? All right, let's bring in another ghost of technology past, the VHS tape. Its story shows us a completely different way a technology can die, and it's about so much more than just the machine. See, VHS didn't just get beaten by better tech. I mean, yeah, DVDs and streaming were better, but that's not the whole story. What really happened was the entire culture of VHS got wiped off the map. Owning the physical tapes, lining them up on your shelves, the whole ritual of be kind, rewind, all of that was completely replaced by the instant, effortless world of streaming. And right there, that's the key difference. The world that the fax machine was born into, it never truly went away. That culture of physical paper, official stamps, and a good old-fashioned pen-to-paper signature, it's still very much alive. And that gave the fax machine something solid to hold on to. Which brings us to probably the biggest reason for the fax machine's incredible survival. The simple fact is, a true replacement, something that could do everything it did, just never showed up. Yeah, of course, email and the cloud are technically way, way better. But if you look at the checklist, no single modern tool could do it all. Could you use it with literally zero training? Check for the fax. Did it work for people who are completely tech illiterate? You bet. Did it fit right in with the whole paper and stamp way of doing things? Absolutely. But getting an instant, legally accepted physical copy? Email and the cloud get a shaky maybe at best. The fax ticked every single one of those old school boxes. So, you see, getting rid of the fax machine was never about a simple technical upgrade. It was about starting a cultural revolution. It meant fundamentally changing how people work, how entire organizations function. And honestly, for most places, that was just way too much to ask. So where does that leave us? What's the real legacy of this ghost tech, this machine that just wouldn't die? Well, it's a real double-edged sword, isn't it? On the one hand, you have the positives. It was a lifeline in disasters when the internet was down. It made sure people who weren't tech-savvy weren't excluded. And it kept millions of small businesses humming along. But then there's the negative side. It absolutely delayed digitalization, it kept inefficient processes alive and well, and you could even argue it slowed down progress for entire nations. When you boil it all down, the fax machine ended up being what you might call a social cushion. It was a technology that let society put off a painful but totally necessary change. It absorbed all the pressure to evolve, letting everyone kick the can down the road.
And this quote just nails it. The fax wasn't some evil invention. It just became the perfect excuse for not having to change. It was comfortable.
So in the end, maybe the question we should be asking isn't, why did the fax survive? The real question is, why weren't we ready to let it go? It makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe its story has less to do with the technology itself and everything to do with our own deep-seated resistance to change.